Hey guys, welcome to the latest ProdWrks Masterclass on startup bootstrapping. I'm Harshvardhan. I head the publications at ProdWrks and I am the host for today's session. So we have a very special guest with us today, Mr. Karan Desai. He's a serial entrepreneur and he's an investor, and he's the founder of Interface Ventures. We'll get more info out of Karan in a short while. Before that, quick housekeeping. You'll see a chat box there. Please try and locate it. It will be on the either on the bottom of your screen or on the top, depending on which version of Zoom you're using. And you can put all your questions there. And second, please remain on mute during the course of the webinar. And once the webinar is done, we'll have the floor open for questions. So who's this webinar for? This webinar is for people in the early stages of your startup journey. This includes people who are founders, aspiring founders, people who are still in the idea stage, and people who have started up and then are in troubled waters or unsure on what to do next, how to arrange for more funds and take their tech stack further and take it to more markets. So this webinar is for everyone who ticks this box. We get started immediately. So yeah, introducing to our team and our sponsors and our parent company are so we are ProdWrks. ProdWrks was started by Jose Siam. It is a product community for product people, everyone from founders to the last person holding the fort in a product company. Jose being a product guy, he himself bootstrapped his own company, Siam Computing, is a parent company, and also our sponsors for the webinar here. And he bootstrapped Siam Computing from one-person organization to a close to 200 people organization now. And it's about Jose, and I think he's in a Stanford Seed program. Jose Siam Computing was recently selected for the Stanford Seed program, and I think he's there. And I think we have Murugesh here. Murugesh is a CTO of Siam Computing, and he one thing about Murugesh before we start, he recently won the Best AIML Solution Award at the MIT Grand Hack, which happened in Bangalore recently. Murugesh, if you're there.
Hello everyone. Hi Harsha. This is Murugesh. So I'm CTO of Siam Computing. So I'm taking care of and ensuring how technology used at Siam. Other than that, my hobby is about a technology. I used to do mentorship for the hackathon and events, and be in jury for a couple of events as well.
Thank you, Murugesh. So we move on. So next we have Akansha Ketri. Akansha Ketri is a community lead of ProdWrks, and I think you would have seen a mail at one point of time or the other, or got a message from her.
Oh, hi everyone, I'm Akansha and I'm the community lead at ProdWrks, and I'm really looking forward to this webinar for a counter view we are about to get on, unlocking cash flow and building value for startups. I think we don't get to hear a lot about bootstrapping and also related to success these days. So I'm really looking forward to that. So yeah, excited for what I can learn.
And lastly, there's me. I'm Harshvardhan. I'm the co-founder of the publication, and I'm the host. I'm today's host. And about Karan Desai, there's a lot to talk about Karan. So Karan founded Interface Ventures. It's a a high-end, fully integrated investment incubation advisory platform. He has over 16 years of experience across corporate finance, investment banking. He has been with Bank of America's Indian subsidiary. He finished his career in corporate finance actually in 2015, and he's been a serial entrepreneur since then, and he has invested in a lot of startups. One I think you might hear about is TrueCup Finance. It's an MSME-focused NBFC started in 2017. It was earlier known as Danvarsha Finvest. I think you must have heard about that. Right now, the company has a loan book of around 7 crores until its formal exit in 2022, when the company's loan book grew to over 400 crores with over 50 branches across multiple states, if I'm right, Karan. And he's one of the individual shareholders of TrueCap. Karan is also a fitness freak, and he has invested in, he takes interest in a lot of healthcare and fitness related startups, and he himself has founded Exafit. It's a lifestyle nutraceuticals and nutrition platform. He did it with a JV with the Copran Group in 2018, and it's now owned by the Wilson Group, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, and that's about Karan. I will let him do the talking now. And Karan, you can take over the presentation from me. You can share your screen and then you can.
Perfect. So let's get started. Good morning, everyone. I know it's a Saturday morning, it's the weekend, so I'll try and make this interesting as well for everyone. So as Harsha shared with you all, I'll just tell you all a little bit more about myself before we come to the crux of the matter today. So when I started my professional career way back in 2006, I always knew that at some point I would set up my own business, but obviously, you know, when you are 23 years old, you don't really know what you're going to do. But there was always this inclination that, you know, I want to build something for myself. So by DNA, I'm more of a marketing and sales guy, but I ended up in finance and, you know, got to love it over a period of time. What happened was that, you know, starting in investment banking, serving in that field for 10 years, I realized that, okay, I've spent a fair amount of time building value for other people, raising money for them, helping them with their mergers, acquisitions, so on and so forth. And that's when I decided that, okay, you know, maybe it's time that I start thinking about building value for myself. So 2015 is when I moved out of the large corporate branded life. I finished at Centrum Capital in 2015. I used to run their corporate finance desk. My first early stint actually was running a small healthcare startup called the Heal Institute, which ran a chain of high-end sports science and physio centers across Bombay at that point in time. So I took over as the CEO of the company to focus on commercial operations. It used to be at that point in time seed funded by Mr. Parth Jindal, who Sajjan Jindal's son, has a deep interest in sport. As now you all would know, owns a number of sports teams, including Delhi Capitals of the IPL. Mr. Chandra Gidwani and Mr. Jaspal Bindra, who are now co-founders of Centrum. So in 2017, PE fund took over that company, and I set up what is now called TrueCap Finance Limited. At that point in time, was called Dhanvarsha Invest Limited, financing company for MSMEs in collaboration with the Wilson family of Bombay. So they were the primary investors. I was the CEO at that point in time. So over a 5-year journey, when I left last year, I quit my executive office. It was over 400 crores in size at that point in time. Today it's about 650 crores plus, and it focuses on the small mom and pop business establishment and gives them funding via both gold loans and MSME loans. So last year, Interface Ventures. So there are two interesting things about Interface: the name and the logo. So the logo is the phoenix. It's very relevant to startups because for those who don't know, the phoenix is this mythical bird which has, which was supposed to have risen from the ashes and resurrected itself. So, you know, building a startup is something like that. You have to keep reinventing and resurrecting yourself, you know, depending on where you are in your life cycle. And the name Interface is because, you know, my business and my platform is about being an interface on the advisory side of my business, which I'll tell you about now, and then the product side as well. So there are two verticals in the company. What I do is I incubate startups myself. So I am a large shareholder of a fintech platform called Internovo Ventures, which has just launched its first fintech platform called Indiro, which is a B2B2C loan origination platform, which is built to provide an omni-product, omni-lender solution to individuals and businesses that want to borrow small ticket loans. So when I say small ticket, could range all the way from 25,000 rupees to about 20 crores. This could be personal loans, business loans, home loans, so on and so forth. Because when I ran a lending business, I realized that, you know, one shoe doesn't fit all. So if you're a borrower, then you need to be able to offer multiple solutions to them. Again, this is a partnership driven model. So we are trying to onboard partners who have a large pool of clients and can offer this as an incremental service to them. And in return for which we share the economics of the business with them. So apart from this platform, we are incubating one more, and I have acquired a third one. So the second stack, which will launch in about a month, is a platform called IndieVest. That is a retail investment platform, largely built to kind of make initially the humble mutual fund SIP product cool and interesting for people who don't know where to start their investment and savings journey. So, you know, a lot of people asked me when I was incubating this that, okay, you know, there are so many platforms today for investing, there's so much information. So why would you want to do this? But what I realized is there are two target segments that, nobody kind of talks to or focuses on. One is, of course, all of us, either ourselves or will know people. Since I'm a finance guy, I understand investing and I manage my own portfolio, but I have friends who are doctors, engineers, lawyers. Some of them are doing really well. They have money, they don't have time. So what happens is this money lies around in a savings account making 4% an annum, and they don't even know this. So if you can give them a very simple and engaging platform to be able to direct this free capital into products that give them a relatively safe but steady return, then that is something that they would be very interested in. So that's one use case. The second use case is the I won't say blue collar workers, but people either starting their careers very early in large corporate, small companies, then your stewards in restaurants, your office boys, all of them today will have a bank account. They get their salary through banks, but nobody talks to them of, okay, hey, how do you save 500,000 rupees a month, to build wealth over the long term. So that's the second TG that we will be chasing. So that's the second stack, which launches in about a month. And the last is we have acquired a small Khata platform, which is basically an accounting platform for small businesses. So the big known names, of course, to everyone are your checkbook, Khata book, gym book, so on and so forth. So we've acquired one of their smaller cousins, and the objective there is to redesign, rebrand, and relaunch it and distribute this largely through the lending partners that I work with on the advisory side of my business. So coming to the second part on the advisory side, the advisory side, what I do is I help companies which are largely NBFCs or lending companies, and in some cases other businesses as well. I help them raise money. So this could be in the form of debt, largely from banks, and equity in some cases. So because of that, my network in the financial services domain is fairly strong. So both the product and the services businesses kind of become very synergistic to each other. The advisory business is good for the network and, of course, the cash flow when you close deals successfully. And the product business is what will create wealth for you over a sustained period of time. So these are the two large verticals of what I do. One part that I will address later, but I'll just flag it off right now, is that the technology business is built as a joint venture with a technology company based out of Noida, promoted by a gentleman called Mr. Akshay Srivastav. He runs a company called Novostack. He's very young. He's only 27 years old, but has almost a 30-member team. And the reason we did this is fintech has two parts to it. There is Fin, which is me. So I put the capital into the business. It's bootstrapped by me. I bring the network, access into financial services, and then there is the tech, which is handled completely by Akshay and Novostack. So bringing this combination together, we realize that, we give each other much more strength as a combined unit than, trying to do this individually ourselves. And the third part of what I do is I invest in third-party businesses normally, only when they are businesses that I already have some kind of ongoing relationship with in terms of business opportunities, or somebody I know very well. So I have just recently invested a little bit of money in a fast-growing small finance bank, for example. Then apart from that, I have a very large investment now in Internovo Ventures, which owns all of my tech platforms. And then I keep evaluating opportunities which could be synergistic to my business. So moving ahead, the million-dollar question, bootstrapping, what is it and why should one do it? So let's start with a very simple concept. I mean, bootstrapping simply means that you're beginning your business with no outside investment. And when I say no outside investment, essentially nothing outside your own capital and probably very close friends and family. So basically you are investing money for which you have the comfort that, nobody will be sitting on your head after 2 years, 3 years asking you for an exit and, what is the return you generated for them. This is in a certain sense proprietary capital, and it is pooled together at the start to try and start your business. Now, a lesser known fact, since we only read the great stories about people who raise these millions of dollars of money from investors, is that bootstrapping is still the most likely source of startup equity for over 90% of technology businesses and practically 99% of every other business. This disparity you see is because VCs or early stage seed investors will always fund a technology business more easily versus something, like a gentleman was mentioning at the start, like an agriculture related business, because people just feel technology is more scalable. The jury is out on that, whether it's right or not, but that's why you see this disparity. Now, I think this is what is critical. Bootstrapping is very, very important when you're setting up a business because it teaches you how to survive, sustain, and build a self-sufficient business. Whatever money you may have, whether it's starting a business, going on a holiday, buying a car, buying a house, when you're putting your own money in, you will always you will put in a lot of thought into what is it that I can afford, how much can I stretch, till when will this money last, and what is it that I can achieve practically. The minute there is something in your mind that creates a perception that, okay, this money is a little easier, I don't have so much pressure, I don't need to calculate so much. The human nature is such that you will always be a little more free with how you deploy that money. So I strongly urge everyone, and this is based on my personal experience as well, that take a decision on starting your own business when you feel that you can bootstrap it to get it to a point of basic self-sustainability. And what's the basic checklist for that? I will come up to a little bit later, but I'm a very strong advocate of bootstrapping your own company at the start for the simple reason that it teaches you a lot of discipline, operationally and financially. Now, of course, let's talk about the pros and cons of bootstrapping your startup. So let's talk about the good stuff first, which is your pros. You acquire a lot of experience while risking your own money. So the obvious answer here is you learn to stretch every rupee and make it 100 rupees. So, when you put your own money into your own business, what happens is every morning when you go to office, you will think, okay, what is going to come in today? What needs to go out today? That PNL or cash flow, or I would say PNL, I'd rather say cash flow management becomes an inherent part of your DNA. You will learn how to kind of chase, if you're in a services business, chase your clients for your receivables. You will learn how to be able to do that politely but firmly. The minute, it's somebody else's money, probably that urgency is a little lesser because you will chase growth as opposed to chasing your receivables. What happens then is you will suddenly realize a year later when you're casting your balance sheet that, oh, I have so many receivables, customers have not paid me. Why did that happen? Because, you had capital in the company and you were busy chasing growth. So the top line looks great, but the debtors look big as well. When you are bootstrapping your own business, you cannot afford to be there because if you've not realized your receivables, there is no money to pay salaries in some cases. So it teaches you how to make every penny count. This is, of course, very simple. When you fund the business yourself, you end up owning most of the company. The sharing with somebody else is much smaller. So, somebody asked me at the start that, okay, what is the right time to raise money? So there are two parts to this. One, the earlier you do it in your life cycle, the more you will end up giving up in terms of ownership, because obviously the perceived risk of your business is higher. So, people who will take that risk on you will want a greater pound of flesh. So that's one part of the story. The second part is, as you bootstrap and take your business to a level where you eventually need money to fund your further growth and not your survival. When I say survival means you don't need someone's money to fund your burn, marketing burn, people burn, whatever other burn you have. The minute you reach that stage and start talking to investors, the quality of your investors, plus the valuations you will get will be significantly higher than, making a business plan on a piece of paper today, going to someone and saying, I have this great idea, I have no money to fund it, or I have very little money to fund it. You take all the risk. So one or two things will happen. Either, out of the 100 people you approach, probably 95 will say no. Out of the 5 who express an interest, 2 guys will finally say, okay, I'm ready to pull the trigger. Out of those 2 guys, one will ask you for about 70% of your business. The other will probably ask you for about 90% of your business, and you will be left as a small shareholder. So That is a decision you need to make when you are deciding, okay, this is the business I want to do, this is the capital I have, and this is till when I can survive and when I will need somebody to put more money into my company. Third, this relates to the first point. When it's about your survival on an everyday and every month basis, you will always find innovative solutions to solve your problems. You will always think of what is the new market that I can enter. If a particular strategy is not working, you will not run with it for 6 months. You will figure out how to kind of tweak it, improve it, better it to get to a new place in 45 to 60 days. Because every day spent without a positive or a constructive outcome means that you burn through a little bit more of your capital. This forces you to think creatively. There is a saying probably at the end of the presentation, but I'll say it now. Plato, one of the great old philosophers, said that necessity is the mother of invention. And it's very true. When you are in this position and you are forced to look for new avenues, if 10 doors close, the 11th one will open up. So it makes you a lot more innovative in how you think and how you solve problems related to your business and those faced by your customers. Now let's come to the cons of bootstrapping. So of course, the obvious one is that business growth will be a little slower, especially, if you are one of the lucky ones where your idea started to do well and the demand for your product or service is now outstripping your ability to service it. This is the best case problem, so as to speak, that a startup can get to. And this would be the ideal time for you to be able to go to somebody and say, hey, okay, my idea is doing really well. I don't need money to fund my burn, but if I have 100 orders today, I have the ability to service 1,000. I can keep doing 100, growing at 10, 20% year on year. But if I want to grow at 50%, this is the money that I need. So while it's a con, this is a very good problem to have. The second, putting your own money in and owning 100% of the business comes with the flip side, which obviously means that all the financial risks are assumed by you, the entrepreneur, as opposed to it being shared with the investors who have invested along with you in the company's growth. So, for me, this is lesser of a con. It depends on your confidence in what you're doing. So if you really believe that what you're building will, beyond a certain critical, proof of concept period, start to yield you cash flow, then I would assume that risk rather than, share it very early with other investors who probably, take a very large piece of my business because they've taken very early stage risk with me. So this is a con, but it depends on, how you perceive it and what you can do about it. For me, this is actually more relevant. While limited capital, of course, is a problem if you don't have investors. But more than that, what I would want is contrary views to what you are building. So when you have investors who come, ideally with some background in your business and have deep connections in the sector, they bring new ideas to the table. Now, when you don't have external investors and you are the person sitting right at the top, you may not always have new ideas. So, eventually sometimes there comes a point where you may run out of capital and or new ideas. So in a startup, both are equally risky. So, if you don't need or can't get investors at the start, what you should do is look for people in your ecosystem to actually come on board as mentors or advisors to keep getting new information and new ideas from them to make sure that your business is always forward looking and doesn't become redundant. Yeah. So this is some interesting food for thought. While we have the world's third largest ecosystem, it's, and a lot of unicorns now, it's very surprising to know that only 8% of, or less than 8% of its 80,000 startups today have received venture funding. This obviously means that over 90% were bootstrapped or, got money from somewhere else. So essentially, we can only see the headlines of, what newspapers show us that, okay, this company became a unicorn, got $1 billion valuation, these guys raised 200 million. But for every one story like that, there are hundreds and hundreds of stories where you don't even know that, these guys funded the company and it's doing well. They don't have any external investors. But they've gone on to do well. And of course, business is business. There is a high risk of startup failure as well. But if there was no risk and there was only reward, nobody would be in corporate employment. Everyone would be an entrepreneur. So this is a risk that as an entrepreneur, each of us has to accept and overcome that risk to actually reach a level where, we built a business which is, eligible of either rewarding itself or through investors reach the next level of scale. Now, for me, the last 2 points are what I strongly believe in and, I inculcate in my business. Don't focus on what you read in the paper or build a business that will perpetually need someone else's money to survive and grow. Now, this is very simple. You keep reading these stories of businesses that are burning so much money every month or every year, and if they don't raise their next round, then you start reading about how now they've hired 3,000 people and 500 are being laid off, then 1,000 are being laid off. This happens when the business was built to only grow in top line and had absolutely no focus on cost control. Essentially, for every rupee of revenue you generated, you probably burned 3 rupees of capital. And this is not about early stage. So every business when you started will burn money. It's inevitable. But as a businessman, you have to have a very clear thought process that, okay, at what stage does this burn stop and at what level of basic sales do I at least start covering my costs? If you don't have that clear thought process, your business will always need money to pay for its bills. And eventually, this business will not survive because there will only be a handful of these firms which will keep receiving VC money or VC or PE money as the case may be, because already too much money has gone in. And beyond a point, even those may not get additional capital. So my strong suggestion to all fellow entrepreneurs is that, stay very focused on first achieving point of self-sustainability and then think of attracting investors to your business. Don't attract investors to fund your burn. Now, the last point around that is you would never want to burn your own money, right? So why should the same respect and logic not apply to an investor's money? It's unfortunate that, a lot of startup entrepreneurs, and you read a lot of horror stories in the press these days, is, so much money has been burnt. We're talking hundreds of crores or hundreds of millions of dollars, just like gone. And the startups have shut down, employees have been sacked, work culture is terrible. And this is because people thought that money is free, equity is free. If the business goes wrong and shuts down, I don't have to return someone's equity because it's not dead. They took an equity risk. Business didn't work out, no problem. I'll shut it down today. I'll start some new startup a year later. How does it matter? This has to change. We have to start treating somebody else's money with the same respect and deference that we would treat our own money with. So for me, these are, very, very important points that I would like to share with each of you. Okay, so this is very simple. This is what I do in my business every day. This is basically the checklist that I kind of thought through before I started my business. It's called the 2C 2P model. So let's talk about the 2 C's first, then come to 2 P's. So comfortably numb. It's an old Pink Floyd song for people who like old music. I'll tell you what that means now. Now, comfortably numb means you start a business being comfortably numb. Essentially, you pool together enough capital, whether it's from your savings, your friends, your family, to incubate your idea and survive for at least 24 months, including whatever personal commitments you may have. So if you have a home loan, how do you pay the EMI for that? It doesn't make sense to leave your corporate job or, give everything away and, start your business just because you have a great idea. Ideas are great, but if you cannot fund them, then those ideas will die their own natural death eventually. So my most important suggestion or advice to all my fellow entrepreneurs, or aspirational entrepreneurs attending this webinar is, please don't rush into your startup. Do it when the time is right. Please never feel that, okay, I don't do this business today, I'll miss the bus and somebody else will do it and become great. It sounds nice in theory, but practically when you start your startup, when you hire people, when you rent an office, expenses start to load. So unless you are very clear that, okay, this is my revenue model, this is where inflows will start from, and this is the capital I have to get to that point. So for me, the reason I've written 24 months is if in 2 years of starting your business, you cannot reach a point of at least the business generating enough revenue to cover expenses, then that idea was not great to begin with. For the simple reason that then you built or you started a company assuming that within 24 months, I will raise a round of investment. And that is the only way this business will survive. So you will be under pressure from day zero to constantly keep raising money. Raising money is a separate business all by itself. You can either focus on growing your business properly or raising money. It's very difficult to do both concurrently, especially at an early stage of your business when you are everything from the chairman of your company to the doorman of your company. You will have to do everything. So you won't have enough time to do these two big elements together at the same time. So please be comfortably numb. Try and start your business full time. Only once you at least know that, hey, I have this much put aside. I can fund the business and my personal commitments for about 24 months. And this gives me enough time to build a proof of concept case and start covering my expenses. Post which it's up to me to decide, do I keep growing by churning my cash flow or do I accelerate my growth by now inviting a fund to come and invest into me? Collaboration. So I spoke about the name interface, and interface basically means collaboration, being an interface between different things. So when I mentioned to you all at the start as well that I incubated the fintech company on day zero by forming it as a joint venture with a technology partner. There are three reasons for it actually. One, I am not a technologist, so I would never know if someone tells me that, okay, this platform has to be built in Java or Python or, PHP or whatever it is. I don't know the difference between the three. I don't understand the cost implications of doing it in one tech versus the other. So when you can't size up a very critical part of your business because of lack of domain knowledge, I would suggest rather than try and raise crazy investor money and then pay for it, try and find somebody to partner with you who actually understands that part very, very well and comes on board as a long-term partner for you. So it could be tech, as is the case in my fintech business. A gentleman at the start raised a question about, if he wants to run an asset-heavy business like, something in agriculture where he needs to buy land. So, it's going to be very difficult to raise that kind of capital at the start from yourself, friends, and family, unless, of course, you come from a very wealthy background. So another way of doing it, and this is my suggestion, is look for somebody who already has a piece of land and, kind of either it is lying vacant, barren, some basic production is going on it. Can you show them how to take the value of that land to the next level by partnering with you in your business? So you make them a joint venture partner in this business by they bringing in the asset, which is the land, you bringing in whatever is the new agri-tech that you want to do or whatever cultivation technology you want to bring, and then you share the risks and rewards of that business. So for me, collaboration is very, very important. It could be for digital marketing, where you acquire customers. So the ethos of my fintech business is following a B2B2C customer acquisition strategy. So Indiro, the loan origination platform that we have just launched recently, my objective there is to onboard partners, which will essentially be small businesses who either service salaried customers or small self-employed customers, small businesses, where they offer them a product or service apart from loans. Now, the reason for this is everybody needs credit. So they will be borrowing money from somewhere or the other. So if you can rope in these larger partners and tell them that, hey, together we will now offer loans also to your clientele. They don't need to go anywhere else. And in return for you marketing my product to your customers for every successful transaction, we will share the economics of that transaction with you. So essentially what you've done is made point 3 happen, which is the main reason why startups fail. I have converted my fixed CAC, which is cost of acquiring a customer, to a variable CAC. So I am paying somebody for acquiring a customer after I have realized revenue from that customer. So, for startups, a very large part of the money they burn typically goes in people and marketing. So I'll talk about the people in the first P when we move to the next slide. But marketing, if you can convert fixed CAC to variable, it will help you survive for much longer. How do you do these partnerships? Now you look for partners that will help you achieve your goals through one of two options. Like I said, either a revenue share like we are doing on Indiro, or through equity like I have done on the fintech company that I have formed, where we both own equity in the company, and both of us will make wealth out of it only when we both bat for the business together and create value in the P&L and the balance sheet. So our interests are completely aligned. My tech partner is not a vendor to me. My tech partner is a co-owner of the company. Makes a huge difference. So these are the two C's. Let's talk about the two P's. People is the backbone. People, or rather, your core team members at an early stage are the backbone of your business. This is my philosophy. I prefer looking for what I call diamonds in the rough. These are young, enterprising, talented individuals who are available at a reasonable cost and can be groomed for the future. So this is my way. Normally, I hire from my ecosystem. I have converted people who never did what they do today from very, very different areas. So I've converted somebody who used to manage admin somewhere into my product manager today, just because the person was, or rather is extremely talented. Talent was not noticed, was not given an opportunity, but today, she's performing very, very well. Somebody who actually used to be a content writer, again, now is a product manager for me, and is slowly starting to learn technical quant to build investment models for the next stack that we are launching. So, for me, this is what is most important, because when you give people the right platform and the right opportunity and back their talent, they will go above and beyond to create wealth for themselves and you over the long term. For me, I don't hire by CV normally. So I don't want any Ivy League resources in the early stage of my business today, unless they share the same philosophy, because when you're bootstrapping the business, obviously you can't afford them. B, they have extremely generally rigid ideas of how they want to kind of work in a startup. And like I said, in a startup, everyone has to be with the thought process of chairman to doorman. You have to do whatever it takes. So you have to pitch at senior meetings, but if a guest comes and your office boy hasn't come for the day, then you need to serve that guest a cup of coffee as well. So the DNA is very, very important. And this is where you can save a lot of cash flow in the start and create a great institution and culture, but you have to be prepared to invest time in teaching them, training them, grooming them, and backing their ability. So this is a very understated and undervalued P process. So, your office might be, and my startup office is, I have two now, each is an average of about 350 square feet. I didn't take a fancy big office to start, but you run your startup like an MNC. Culture has to be very, very important. While your office may be small, people that work with you have to know that you run it with the best possible standard. So, please don't start the system of paying employees on the 7th day of the month because labor law says you have to pay them on or before the 8th. Please pay them on the last working day of the month. If the 31st is a Sunday, so 30th, please pay them on the 29th. The minute you may not be able to pay great salaries, obviously, because you're a startup, but if you give them the right environment, a nice office, good coffee in the office, good computers to work on, Saturday, Sunday off, flexibility to work from home, you will be very surprised that people will, answer your call even on a Sunday evening at 8 and spend an hour making a document for you if you need it first thing Monday morning. Please give them systems that are world class. Size doesn't matter here, the intent matters. Everyone has to feel that they are working for a company that tomorrow will become something very, very large and very, very important. So these were my two C's and two P's. I would suggest that before you all start, or for those who've just started, please spend some time trying to fit all of your existing ecosystem into these boxes, and they will kind of give you more clarity on what elements need to be fixed. Okay, so this is my favorite slide, and these are two of my favorite companies. I use both of these, by the way. So Zerodha is, Nitin Kamath and Nikhil Kamath. They've built a great platform and a great franchise. They completely revolutionized how stockbroking should happen. So for those who don't know, I'll give you numbers since I'm a finance guy. For this financial year, they will probably have closed their books at somewhere about 4,300 crores of top line, of which they made a profit of over 50% or estimated to be over 50%. Please think about these numbers. This is a completely technology driven business. What you read in the paper with a lot of tech startups is that you cannot run a tech business without burning money. Proof is in the pudding that you eat. Ladies and gentlemen, these numbers are in front of you. Today, they've diversified. They've just about started an asset management company. They have a PE fund of their own. The Kamath family does a lot of work in charity, and they do this from their own cash flows. Zerodha has always been bootstrapped. They have no fancy Ivy League senior management. They have no fancy investors. This is money that has been built over time, over the years from their own hard work. And the next is, of course, Zoho, Chennai headquartered. Again, they last year, I don't have 23 numbers, but they last year were estimated to have done about 7,000 crores in top line and about 2,700 crores of profit. So Zerodha I trade with both in my personal capacity and interfaces corporate broking account. Zoho is the entire backend CRM for all of my fintech stacks. They are fantastic platforms. We were initially saying, or someone said that, historically we've been a very services focused nation, but look at these products that we've built. I mean, they are absolutely world class. They've proven conclusively that it is possible to build great technology stacks that can make you a lot of money if you execute properly and you stay patient. So both of these have taken about 10 to 15 years to get here. So my friends, please don't be in a hurry. Don't think that mujhe unicorn 2 saal mein banana hai. No great business was ever built in 2 years. Have patience, persist with your idea, keep tweaking it where required. And please believe in the people that you onboard at the start. Please believe in yourself. Never be afraid to reach out and seek help or collaborate with people. And last, please, this is my humble request to all of you all. Please never be afraid to share. Most founders fail because, अरे ये valuation पे थोड़ी मैं equity दूंगा. Valuation is paper, my friends. You can own 100% of 100, or you can own 20% of 10,000. You have to decide what you want in your life. So if you feel that the time is right, by getting this partner on board or this investor on board, your game can change. Please don't haggle and walk away for that incremental 2%, 3%, 5%. At the end of the day, it's only paper. What is important is you build or you try and build a business that can leave a legacy behind. And of course, in the process, create a lot of wealth for yourselves, your family, all the core team members who came together with you, and the last person down, all the way till your office boy, will benefit from the growth that your company witnesses. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
That was a wonderful presentation. I have a few questions myself, but before I do, I will open the floor for questions. I think we have a few already. I think Kumar wanted to talk about pitch deck, how to create a pitch deck and things like that. That in itself is a big topic, but Kumar, if you are here and if you can unmute yourself, and if you have any specific questions regarding pitch deck, you can go ahead and ask Karan and
So, good afternoon. Thanks for your presentation and your time, valuable time. I just want to know what are the, can you give a simple example, like how many slides we need to have, or any kind of what are the things usually the investors look into?
Okay. So initially, I would suggest that your presentation shouldn't contain more than about 10 to 15 slides. It should be very crisp. What it should include at the start is, of course, at an early stage, people, 80% of the bet is on the person that they are going to fund. So, your background, what have you done in the area that you are now building your business in, your credentials, what is the product concept, who are, say, for example, the advisors or mentors advising the company, anything on the core team. And finally, what is the business all about? And how do you see it adding value in terms of numbers and in terms of output? So when you take it to an investor today, he has to see very clearly, okay, this is the guy, this is what he's done, this is the concept, and this is what it means in terms of numbers. Because when you show people only a presentation with a great idea, not backed by any numbers where, they don't know how much money you've invested, they don't know where this business is going to go, what is the break-even point, how much money do you need? It's very difficult to take a decision and people just say, okay, it's one more idea and it goes away after that. So my suggestion is keep it crisp, 10 to 15 slides. Lot of information on you, what you've done, what the concept is, what the numbers are, what is the investment you have already made or plan to make, what is it that you need from them, and why this opportunity, depending on the segment it is in, could actually be a game changer and hence they should invest with you in it.
Okay, thanks a lot.
I see Mr. Shreyas raising his hand. Shreyas, you can unmute yourself, and if you're comfortable, you can also switch on video and ask questions.
Hi, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. So many insights. Actually, we are a growth consultant. We work with various brands who are in the space. I'd call them in the zero space, considering they are digitally startups or digital startups, and they've never ventured into the digital space before. So there are a few brands we are also looking at who have scaled up to a point where they are interested in looking at roll-up models. So therefore, I'm talking about brands who have possibly crossed they're not at the usual ticket size of how roll-ups work, which is about, I think, 50 lakhs and 1 crore and plus per month. But we're talking about huge potential, brands with a lot of potential. So are there opportunities to look at this at a smaller level? That is where even brands who are doing about 15 lakhs monthly are able to scale up through this roll-up model. They want to get connected to agencies where they're willing to give up a percentage of the equity that they currently own and to take it forward in a much larger way through using experts.
Okay. So, I think in a brand play, one of the largest costs would, of course, be the marketing costs, and like you said, the agency costs. So if these brands, or even on the distribution side, so if these brands can, depending on what their product is and what their distribution channels and marketing channels are, figure out that, okay, if I can get, together with, say, this digital agency or with this distribution partner, it could take up my scale from, say, whatever, 15 odd lakhs a month today to about, say, 30, 35, 40 lakhs a month today. That would push the brand over a period of time into the 5 crores plus kind of annual run rate. See, for larger brands to, take an interest in smaller brands in any category, you are minimum looking at a run rate of about 5 to 10 crores a year. So for these brands, I would suggest that, if they can figure in their ecosystem, which is the right partner or the right partners that they need to kind of get really close to, they should have a conversation with them saying that, hey, okay, what if apart from what I'm paying you commercially, and you can kind of, maybe if I'm paying you 30% today, we can bring it down to, say, 15, 18%. And against that, I will actually give you, say, 10% of the equity of my company. So it reduces the pressure on my cash flow. At the same time, you get to participate in the upside of the brand. Tomorrow, if, say, a larger company comes and acquires us or buys us, or an investor invests in us. So, would that kind of model work? So that's how you reduce cash flow outage and you give them growth participation through equity in the company. So this will be unique to each case, but, I'm sure they will know in their ecosystem which are the partnerships that will actually change the game for them, and they should chase those.
Got it. Thank you so much. That was, yeah.
Thank you, Chef.
We have an interesting question from Edward. It's about a trending topic. It's on all our minds. It's about generative AI. I think Edward is here. Edward, you can unmute yourself and you can ask the question.
Thanks, Harsha. Hi, Karan. The presentation was nice. So, as I'm working as an AI engineer, so I have some doubts. A few of my products, they intentionally asked me to put generative AI in their products just because they just want to raise investments for the products. So, I'm just thinking when I see some post investments comparing investments from this year to the last year. I have seen some huge investments are made towards generative AI than other investments, other products. So, like, is it necessary, or investors are looking for generative AI products, or is it AI burst bubble? That is, so after Meta, 1 year before Meta has a huge name, that is trending name. Now it has reduced its value. So I just asking whether it's a bubble, or really investors are in need of spending money on AI products.
Okay. So I'm not the best person to comment technically on generative AI versus Meta, but I'll tell you this. Investors look for trends and they have a very strong sense of FOMO, which is the fear of missing out. So suddenly if they see that, okay, 10 large boys have put $1 billion into generative AI, or last year, like you said, Meta, then all the others will be like, even the small to mid-sized guys will be like, hey, what's happening here? Am I missing out on something? Let's look for companies, let's start meeting them, and let's make some investments. So that's what typically happens. But if you take away all this noise and you focus on the basics, whether it is generative AI, Meta, now, of course, things like Chat GPT, so on and so forth, blah, blah, blah. As long as the idea is good and there is a use case and you will be able to acquire customers and make money out of them, that business will never go out of fashion. So even if you take, assuming that Meta is a little out of fashion now, but even if you do something with Meta today, which makes a difference and which adds a new angle to how customers are acquired and serviced, you will find money for that as well. So, don't try and build a business basis what is the trend today. Build a business using a use case that you want to service, because that never goes out of fashion. Forget globally, India is 140 crore people. You do anything with some clarity of thought, persistently, and solving a problem, you will always have customers, because some of our states are bigger than half of all of Europe put together. So, don't chase trends. You build what you believe will service a need and a gap in the market, and you will get money for it eventually.
Thanks, Karan.
So next we have lost the chat. Okay, next we have this Sakshi, and she has a question related to fintech and what the problems she saw. I think Sakshi, you can unmute yourself here and ask the questions.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Harsha. Am I audible, right?
Yes, you are.
Yes, actually.
Okay. Yeah, hi, Karan. First of all, like amazing session. I mean, especially the 2C, 2P model was really insightful. And so my question is basically like, yeah, the way you were saying is, at least don't rush into a startup. At least, understand it. At least, like there's something like personal finances also manage that as well, your expenses and everything, and then rush into a startup. So currently, I don't have a startup, just an idea in my mind. And then right now I'm just freelancing with a lot of fintech startups and other, I'm like dealing in unsecured loans, and like I'm just like working for them as a freelancer on a commission or a payout basis, like that, you understand that off-role employee thing. And I am not connected to just one, but a lot of different, so that I can just experience like different in the sense the people they target. Like some target to rural people, some target to only women entrepreneurs like LXMEs and all, some like target to the upper audiences, like the urban audience and everything. So just wanted to know, like, since I also have that, since I'm working abhi with them, but I really want to build something of my own, because I can see the I don't know, like my idea is good or not, but truly I believe in my idea that it's worth it, and I want to build it. So just wanted to know, like, how should I like do it? Should I solely just connect with people, network, do it, or should I search for a mentor and an incubator who can actually help me connecting networks, or using his or her network to connect with people in MSMEs or in fintechs? And how do I proceed with it? Just a small advice about it.
Okay. So, see, now depending on what exactly your concept is and how much money would it need, I'm guessing you want to build some kind of technology platform to do this business. So, what you will need to figure is, okay, what are the models available in the market today? Secondly, how much money do you need to be able to actually execute it? Third, at least the one good thing about financial services now is so many platforms are open API architecture. So, you may not necessarily need to build the whole thing yourself, and you might actually need to build only a part of it, and the rest can be bolted onto something else. So to give you an example, in Indiro, which we launched in Play Store about 2 weeks ago, the credit engine is integrated with Experian, the credit bureau partner. The loan placement we do through RULoans, on which whose board I sit, which is one of India's largest corporate DSAs today. We do about 3,000 crores plus a month right now. So I'm not trying to build everything in-house because that takes a lot of time, lot of money, and why reinvent the wheel? So you need to figure, if you write down all the elements of this business idea, what are the elements that you have to build in-house, and what are those that you can partner with somebody else? And that's when you'll know your minimum use case for what you need to actually build, and then try and figure how much money you may need, basis which you can decide, okay, can you do it yourself? Do you need other people? Do you need an incubator? It's actually a process of elimination. Articulate everything, eliminate those points where you can tie up with someone you already know, and then you are left with what actually needs money.
Okay, thank you, Karan. Thanks a lot. It was like a step-by-step explanation of this. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Like,
See, Suhail, Suhail, you can unmute yourself.
Sure. First, thanks so much, Karan, for sharing the knowledge with us. So I have one basic doubt which every early stage entrepreneurs might have. So in early stage of bootstrapping the business, now, Karan, so most of this might face the basic things like sustainability. Okay. So as being an experienced designer, okay, so the best way I do to fund the business or to keep the business going. So we focus on the service first level, even though the long-term vision is something like building a product. So we need to run the business bootstrap. We do certain services to fuel or make it as an investment for the business. Okay. First thing is my doubt, the finance part. Okay. Am I doing it right by doing service? Because which by providing service we generate money and we put some time building the product, which which might increase the timeline of building a product and releasing. Are we doing this something like this right? So this is my doubt, and even I'm trying to work on multiple ways to increase the finance and increase the investment for the company. So which am I in the right position, Karan? So I just need your thoughts on that,
right.
please.
So actually, your model is very similar to mine because I have a product business as well, and then I have the advisory business again, which is a services business. So, like I was saying during my introduction, that the services business will give you two things. It will, of course, give you cash flow, which you can use to pay your bills and slowly fund your product idea. Second is it will also keep opening new doors for you. So, you will be try and work with clients that actually are relevant to the product also that you're building, because you will gain more knowledge, you will gain more network. You will be able to kind of see whether the product you build will actually be of use to them later. Can you partner with them? So I think it's a very good model. Please don't be hassled by the fact that it's taking you longer to do the product because you have to invest time in delivering service as well. It keeps the
Sure.
fires burning. You are not reliant on external money. So,
Mhm.
if the business idea is good, if you don't get there in 2 years, you will get there in 5 years. But we are all young, or relatively young, I would say. So, I don't think those 2, 3 years will make a huge difference. But
Mhm.
the way you build and fund your business today will make all the difference. So I think it's a good strategy. You should
Okay.
just make sure that you can allocate time properly. And one is synergistic to the other rather than being completely
Mhm.
divergent.
Okay. Totally, because sometimes it makes us feel like we are right? Are we in the right track? As being an entrepreneur, as leaving a comfortable job and voluntarily coming to hustling and grinding period. Sometimes it made us to think like, because our vision is different, right? So maybe, as you said, I can really connect what you are trying to say. But for the investment part also, even I just want to grind, as after seeing all the unicorns like Zoho and Zerodha and all, knowing all these stories. So even I just want to do something concrete and at least have a smaller sample size in the market, then look for some good investment, because I know until we have some customer data, we can't do that. So, and
Correct.
thinking about the trendy thing which you have mentioned in addressing one of our peers' question. So the trend also, which I'm also concerned about the trend, as you know. So the AI is picking up. So we working something similar to that. So will there be any problem? Because as I know, I'm working really hard for that. So if the timeliness is the problem, so should I look for any external things? Is it a good way? But trying to understand basically.
मैं आपको एक सिंपल एग्जांपल देता हूँ. So so many years have gone, so many fancy things have come, but practically every small company, even today, will still write its accounts in Tally. Now, for
Okay.
those of y'all who would have ever seen or used Tally, it is it's the most functional accounting software in the country today. It is the most affordable accounting software in the country today, probably. But if you talk about UI, UX, etc., it doesn't win any awards for that. Has Tally become irrelevant today because a lot of new things have come? Answer to that is no. Right?
Okay.
So, and Tally has been around probably for the last 20 years. So
True.
short answer to your question is that if your idea is good, don't worry about whether it's a trend only this year and it will disappear next year. That it doesn't work like that unless it's something like a crypto, which is very unregulated. It came and now obviously the government has a very strong view against cryptocurrency. Those are different matters, but anything that is not kind of testing the boundaries of governance or regulation, if you can harness it properly and adapt it to your idea, it will be relevant today, tomorrow, next year, the year after that as well. It doesn't matter. You have to solve for a gap in the market. If you're solving for that gap, you will always have a customer for it.
Got it. True. Okay. I think it's good to hear from someone who has a lot of experience, and thanks for sharing all these things, and I really appreciate your time, Karan.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Last question. If you have any question for Karan, you can ask. You can put your hands up. I think Shreyas has his hands up again. Shreya, do you have another question for Karan?
Yeah, hi, completely different topic. So hi, Karan. So we are also developing a tech SaaS product, which caters to the e-commerce ecosystem. So we are me and my partner are not techies, so we're joining with somebody as a co-founder to develop this. Of course, that is a small red flag in the consideration that the person's. I'll start with what is the good. Yes, person's knowledge background in terms of tech products is over 25, 30 years, various kinds of e-commerce products, all of that. But red flag being that he's currently working somewhere and therefore not able to get into the system as a co-founder on the or as a shareholder. And so someone else is coming in. So is this a red flag? How do we work around this, considering that going forward, when we are looking at funding options, we feel that this could be a problem or could be a hindrance, a hurdle in the way. So that is one question. The other question on the same lines is also in terms of patenting. What is the scope of tech product patenting in terms of, I understand from different sources, I've got different kind of opinions on this. Somebody telling me that it's not possible to patent ideas, whereas on the other side, people have also told us that it's possible to patent concepts, executions, technology itself in certain modes. Just a little bit of an idea of how this works.
Okay. So on the first question, See, today, this gentleman, obviously, I'm guessing he's still continuing his employment because he would be at the kind of compensation which obviously the startup cannot afford to pay. So that is understood. As far as his shareholding in the company as a co-founder is concerned, that can be taken in the name if he's married of his spouse or his parent or whoever it is. So that essentially it is his shareholding, but held through the name of a family member. Now, tomorrow, when you take your idea to say an investor, and obviously the question will be, okay, gentleman ABC is a co-founder, but वो तो वहाँ नौकरी कर रहा है. So, it has to be presented in a way which is obviously very clear, saying that, this gentleman brings over 20 years of experience. All of the work so far we've done together, but obviously the company currently doesn't have the cash flow to be able to absorb a senior resource like this full time today. Hence, we bootstrapped it till here. He kind of worked overtime beyond his hours to bring it to the stage. And assuming that you'll now come on board and we agree on an investment, blah, 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 then, he will quit his job full time and then come here at this reasonable compensation. So it will depend on how you time and present the story. If the guy is really good with a solid background coming at a reasonable cost, I'm sure an investor will be like, okay, fine, it makes sense now, which is why you need money. So that's the first part. Second question, honestly, I am not technically qualified to kind of give you some insight whether an idea is patentable or not, because the businesses I'm building, so there are two things, right? One is either you do something very different, which is where the whole concept of patenting and technology, etc., comes, or you do the same thing very differently. So my businesses are largely around the latter and not the former. So we are trying to do something that already exists in a very different manner. So what I have done is registered or applied for registration of trademarks of the brands as opposed to trying to register a technology or an idea. So I think it would be better if you actually consult maybe, legal experts who actually do work in registration of technology and IP. So unfortunately, I can't help you with the second question.
No problems. But thank you so much for having that insight on the first. So we'll definitely consider that. I think that really helps put us a little bit of ease, actually.
Sure. Thank you.
I am going to flip in a question. So this is related to marketing, and you talked about Zoho, and I was a product marketer in Zoho, and I have a question related to the 2C, 2P model. So you told me that you told us that the sizing of the most important elements of your business, right? Tech and marketing, in terms of cost and where you acquire customers matters. And Zoho and if you take a company like Byju's, which is on the other end of the spectrum, have two different approaches to marketing. So when the times are tough, Zoho actually cut down on marketing, cut down completely on Google Ads, cut down so I was in Zoho and they cut down completely on marketing spends. And on the other hand, we have a company like Byju's, when the times are tough, they go all out on marketing. They get in sponsorship for World Cups, bring in Messi. And I think Salesforce is also another example. They spend a lot of marketing. I think Zoho and Salesforce would be a better comparison. So what is your approach, Karan? Like, how would you go about it when the times are tough? Like, how would you approach marketing?
Okay, so it's like this, right? If it's going to rain very heavily, you will close your windows of your house, right? The pani andar nahi aayega. The bright sunny day, you will open the windows, let the sun shine in. Logic is very similar. When it's a bootstrap business and say times are tough, cash flow is tight, you have to save money somewhere. So what do? I mean, the elements which are variable, you focus on trying to control those costs initially, because you don't want to start, laying off people, cutting down on fixed costs. Fixed costs are okay, if you have like some fancy office or something, you can get rid of that. But otherwise, the first place that will actually tone down is your variable cost. Now, that again, it has to be a calculated decision where you're not, cutting out so much marketing costs that you stop acquiring new business altogether. So if you were say chasing growth and you're spending 100 rupees, whereas sustainability means you need to spend 60 rupees when times are tough, you stop spending the 40. So that is what makes sense. Rather than saying, okay, now suddenly I want to spend only 20 rupees. Because then you will stop even sustaining yourself. So I'm sure, Zoho is a very smart business. So probably what they would have done at that point in time would have brought down this 100 to about 60 or 50 or 70 or whatever, to try and tide through the difficult period. So that's essentially what I would also suggest. And, because you don't have a choice, you're sitting on certain amount of cash. you have a certain amount of cash flow coming in. If things get tight, then obviously that cash is as it is, but the cash flow starts to reduce. So if the cash flow reduces, then you have to reduce the expenses that form a subset of that cash flow to get through that period. Because if I don't survive, then anyway, the marketing spend is irrelevant. So, taking the two examples you mentioned, one has the profit we saw, the other owes money everywhere. So,
Thank you. So I think we don't have any more questions from the audience. I think it's been quite an in-depth session. We have Sakshi asking how we could reach you. If you have an email address which you can share, or
Sure.
which interface ventures. And Sakshi, we'll get back to you on this. I'll send you the information to you. And yeah, it was a wonderful session, Karan. Thank you so much for.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, and
and all the best to everyone. Hopefully, tomorrow we read about some of the entrepreneurs you are having built. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the unicorn word, but having built a great business, where you talk about what is the revenue and what is the profit. I mean, unique. If you get anywhere close to this, being a unicorn is an outcome of this. Being a unicorn can't be the goal. It has to be an outcome. So all the best to everyone. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Karan. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.